This is a Fleet Success Show, dedicated to helping you and your fleet succeed using the experience of fleet professionals and Hall of Fame fleet legends. The show that explores how the pillars of stakeholder satisfaction, intentional culture, resource efficiency, and risk management all combine to lead your fleet to success. We're glad you're here. Now, let's get into the show.
Welcome to another episode of the Fleet Success Show. I'm your host today, Steve Saltzgiver, Fleet Hall of Famer and Fleet Success Ambassador at RTA, the Fleet Success Company. Today, I'm joined by Lucas Schorer, founder and CEO of Kestrel Insights. Lucas, it's great to have you here today. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate you having me. I like I need a better title. I like the Fleet Hall of Famer. I need something like that, but you've got a little more, you got more years experience on me. So I don't think I've earned anything like that. But yeah, no, appreciate you having me. Like you said, my name is Lucas, founder and CEO over here at Kestrel Insights. We're based out of Whitefish, Montana. So I'm way up here in the northwest corner of Montana. And we're a data company focused on all things geofencing, and really not just geofencing itself, but all the things that geofences impact. And so all the workflows, the triggers, the reports, all those things that come back to a geofence, we build libraries and data sets that allow people to kind of bring in high quality geofences to their software tools. So yeah, that's kind of our world and our space. It's a funky little data set, but it's been a great few years building this thing, and we've seen a ton of success. So yeah, that's kind of where we live and breathe every day, and it's been good.
Well, besides the geofencing, you live up there where I want to try to escape to. So I think that's a good thing.
It's a good spot. My wife and I moved here in 2019, and I think if it was up to her, she would have kept going north, or we would have ended up in Alaska. But my mom was like, "Come on, stay in the lower 48, please." I've got her first couple grandkids, so if we went to Alaska, my mom would have probably just come to Alaska. So it's good. Montana's a good spot.
I totally understand that. That's exactly why I'm living in colder Salt Lake City, which we've had snow today, which is really unusual. I used to live in Phoenix at headquarters there in RTA, and anyway, well, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about the hidden problem, maybe good data. Most fleets today have telematics installed, so that's not a big deal. I mean, most people are finally coming around on that, but many struggle with data accuracy. So, why is that an issue? Why is data actually an issue?
The way we've always kind of thought about it, because when we kind of came out the gate, I feel like we felt a little bit of pushback because people were maybe concerned that kind of the same sentiment that came around with telematics of like, oh, big brother, it's just going to get me in trouble, all these different things. We kind of felt a little bit of that too of, hey, all these geofences, all this tracking. People were like, oh, you're just here to tell us when we're late and things like that. And one of the conversations we have a lot around that is, hey, it doesn't matter if you're early, late, on time, just know which one it is so you know how to react. And so I think that's, whether it's in geofences or any kind of data set, I think it's just, if you have the right data, you just know what then the action needs to be that follows it. And I think, it's sometimes like, even if it's a negative result or something, that people don't like looking at that sometimes, or they're worried about that popping up, but knowing what actually happened is so much more powerful, because then you know what to do. Because yeah, God forbid you get all this glorious, positive data, and then you're making reactions based on that, but that's totally wrong. So it's just kind of this compounding effect. And so I think that's really the main issue around accurate data is just willing to accept, okay, let's just understand reality, and then we know what to do from there. So that's what we come at it from an interesting point of view, because we're not like a SaaS solution that is like really focused on one specific problem. We touch so many different things. And so that's like, we really try to find consistent themes in the data space of, hey, no matter what you're doing or looking to do with this, it really just comes back to that. It's like, kind of be passionate about the truth and know what happened, so you know what that follow-up reaction needs to be. That's kind of what we see it.
I was thinking about what you said about Big Brother, and I remember waiting almost an entire year. This is about 10 years ago, but for me to get through the union and all that debacle, to convince them that we're not going to be Big Brother, we're this is really kind of a safety thing for you in actuality, because now we know where you're at, and if we need to contact you, or you need to contact us. And so I think I'm hoping we're kind of through that now. I mean, I know there's probably some pockets out there, but That's always kind of an
I
issue.
feel like telematics like that was definitely like first through the wall and, got beat up pretty hard on like the whole Big Brother thing. And now solutions like ours that come behind it, it's definitely a less, I feel like it's less of a process to like that convincing phase. I remember in, God, what's that? It's at the very end of Moneyball where Brad Pitt's sitting there in Boston getting the pitch of like to come work for them. And the guy makes the comment of like, hey, you were first through the wall. Like you're always going to get the bloodiest. And so I think telematics was definitely that and like the technology. Hey, whoa, what's going on here? So I can't complain nearly as much as probably that wave.
I think my first epiphany was, after I fought those battles and then I ended up at Republic Services. And we didn't have telematics, but we were really exploring it back then. I'm sure hopefully they've moved to that point now, but I went all the way back to North Carolina, sat down with Mac truck, and I'm looking at a big screen in their data center, and I'm seeing all my trucks running around. And I mean, they literally had all the telematics, even though I didn't have a way to interpret it on the actual truck. And I said, "Are you kidding me? Those are my trucks, and you're following me and seeing all that." Oh yeah, we have it all built in. It's for warranty purposes and all this other stuff. And so you're really just kidding yourself, if you're
totally
thinking Big Brother's not out there anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's so true. Like it's regardless of, and it's funny. I think I was telling you this yesterday. So I've got 2 girls under 2 years old right now. So I'm not. They're still at home, obviously, and very very little. But I was talking to someone with kids a little older, and kids were getting driver's license and things like that. And like, they've all got like cameras in their cars and stuff. And I was like, are the kids, cause I remember, dude, when I turned 16 and my mom put a camera in my car, I'd be like, get out of here. But she was saying, the mom I was talking to was like, these kids are just so used to it. I mean, they're constantly on TikTok and Instagram and like filming everything. Like they're just used to cameras. And so I definitely think that like thinking back to like your reaction to, well, you guys can see everything, to like, this generation is, oh, I'm just used to it. Like, so yeah, it's funny to see those kind of a technology adoptions and acceptance and like behaviors just in real time over like a very, very short window. So anyways, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a generational thing for sure. Everybody now grows up with technology, so, they're probably used to it all. So let's talk, what are some of the biggest misconceptions, that you run into?
We have an interesting point of view on industry events and industry interactions with at least our data sets because, and I've always explained this from the start, but when we started this company, like I'm not a 30-year background broker, in this space and things like that. Like that's not me. I came into it from a data perspective of just seeing kind of this gold rush of SaaS products that just came on the back of, the ELD mandate of just like, okay, everything's connected now, just what that opened up. And behind these kind of SaaS products, just some vacuums in terms of data sets needing to continue to power them to achieve their goals and their value props and all that. So that's where I came into it. And so, because of that, I feel like I'm constantly just, learning about this industry and learning about this space. And so where we sit as a data product, I think some of the most interesting things we come across is just, I think not the generational, but just the kind of the long-term perception of what these data sets mean and what's needed to access them. And so for geofencing has been around for so long. Like we didn't invent geofencing. So when we talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, I've got geofencing. Like I don't whatever. I don't need that. And so I think the perception is sometimes not realizing, hey, when was the last time you thought about geofencing? I mean, 5, 10, 15 years can go by in a blink. And so some of these people have been working at these carriers for so long. They're like, oh, I've got geofencing. I've been doing it for years. It's like, well, man, it's come a long ways. And like, how are you creating them? How are you accessing them? What's your coverage look like and things like that? And a guy on our team built a very simple kind of reporting thing where if a customer who wants to talk to us gives us like a read-only API token, we can pull all their geofences and look at overlaps or ones that are in the wrong spot and all these things. And it's like very eye-opening to be like, oh, I've actually never sat down and maybe holistically looked at these data sets. And so whether it's geofencing or whatever it is, I think from a data perspective, it's not the visual sexy piece all the time of like a SaaS tool that's automating all this stuff, but it's the back end that's powering all that. And so I think from a misconception point, we often see these data sets get overlooked, and we're always trying to find the right way to talk about them or to dive into them with people. And we're not a silver bullet for everyone, but we'll get on these calls with teams. We're like, oh man, like this is perfect. Like, how do I just make sure you see this? Because A, yeah, I'd love for you to use our product, but B, I want to make sure I want to see if you really believe and see this. And like, it's because when someone sees it and that light bulb goes off, it's just like, it's the best. And so whatever data set it is, we see misconceptions around the power of them or the accessibility of them and where they touch so many things in these fleets day to day that they might not realize sometimes. So that's where we see a lot of stuff.
I think most people probably know what geofencing is, but in simple terms, can you explain exactly what that might be so somebody doesn't?
Yeah, no, totally. It's funny because we always start conversations there because I used to always assume the same thing. And I think, yes, the general concept of it, very, very well known. I think it's where we then take it is like I mentioned, all the things it touches and stuff like that. So from the very, very beginning, it's just a virtual boundary anywhere on Earth. You can put it around anything. You can put it around nothing. You can have it just random. It's just a virtual boundary that you are putting around something. And the interesting thing about a geofence is it's useless by itself. I mean, if I just go draw one out in my field, it's like, that doesn't do anything for me. And so we are very dependent on we are 100% dependent on our telematics partnerships and the tracking world and all that, because you got to compare that little blue dot on the map against the geofence. And even though we might touch hundreds of different use cases for like how the geofence is used, the geofence only spits out 3 timestamps. When did you get there? How long were you inside it? And when did you leave it? That's all it does. Like, so it's very, very simple. It's how you then take those timestamps to do whatever you want to do. That becomes very powerful. So from the basic standpoint, that's all a geofence is.
Because no one goes to school for fleet management, chances are you were never formally trained on how to successfully lead a fleet. That's where the Fleet Success Playbook comes in. The Fleet Success Playbook is your guide to building a safe, reliable, and efficient fleet that provides exceptional service. Learn all about the 4 pillars of fleet success: stakeholder satisfaction, intentional culture, resource efficiency, and risk management. Get nearly 100 years of combined advice on common challenges, practical solutions, actionable tips, and real examples from fleet industry experts who have been there and done that. Visit www.fleetsuccessplaybook.com to request your free copy today.
I was thinking, when I was at Coca-Cola, we implemented telematics, and we did it for several reasons, safety, driver behavior, geofencing, route control, things like that. I think the first thing that came to mind, as we're talking about this, is I remember people driving a great big Class 8 Coke truck and dropping off their laundry outside their geofence, things like that, or leaving their route and going home and eating lunch with their spouse or something weird like that, which is not egregious in itself, but it was kind of those gaps that we would see that now we know, okay, this is where the productivity issues are coming from, right? Because people are actually deviating from their route. So
yeah, you got an interesting point of like, what we've seen a ton too is, and I think so many data sets in the space are going this direction too, is like transportation, field services, whatever it is very much like, it often is very focused on going from point A to point B. And that's where we've always kind of focused on is like pick up and drop off. But what I think a lot of these data sets are allowing, and some of these AI models that allow you just to look at things more holistically, is like, what is like the whole network doing? And so if you just have geofences for point A and point B, you're very limited. But now with something like ours, where we've got millions and millions of these, like start to look at and collect data around everything in between as well. Like in between point A and point B, how many gas stations did you stop at? What kind of risk zones and counties did you drive through? Did you go to this, that, or the other? Like it starts to give you just such a more powerful view of what's happening in the whole day, not just a pick up and drop off, that I think over time we're seeing, you start collecting this data over a month or a year or more, you just get such a better picture of what's going on, and it allows you to just optimize for your team. So like, yeah, there might be those occasions of like, hey, you're going home where you took a 45-minute lunch or whatever it is, but more importantly, like knowing how your fleet's behaving allows you to, again, just set yourself up for success. So whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, just know what's going on, because you can then plan for it and make decisions around that. So it's really cool.
Any stories or anything that you've seen that's really funny or particular as you're doing, a review of some of these fleets?
One of the biggest things that we see, or it's hard, some of these telematics platforms, they're very focused on like, they're vehicle driven. And so it's like you search and you go through the platform based on like a single vehicle often. And so sometimes the maps and the views aren't set up from like hey, I want to specifically look at this from a geofence perspective. And so you can't, what that limits is you can't see like overlaps and duplicates and things like that. So when we pull people's data outside of that view and maybe come at it from like a mapping view and show them, hey, these are all your overlaps and duplicates, it's very eye-opening sometimes. So we had a customer who's like, there's something wrong with my trackers. It keeps saying that I went to like 50 different stops and I only had 3 deliveries or all this stuff. And we're like, that doesn't make any sense. And this was a beverage company. So they were going to like bars, restaurants, liquor stores.
Right.
So we pulled out all their geofences and put them on our map. And it was it's just the craziest Venn diagram nightmare rat's nest of like, there were, I think out of a couple hundred geofences, our system calculated like 40,000 overlaps because it was just 2-mile radius circles all in this crazy area. So it's very like, oh God, this is exactly what's going on. Like you can drive down this main street and you're going to break 40 geofences. And so that stuff's kind of crazy and very eye-opening. We had an interesting story. This was like week 1, month 1 of even just getting this company off the ground, where we were poking around and trying to understand, what's going on with geofences? What are like some use cases really around theft and fraud kept popping up. And this was when we first started seeing, people are trying to use these data sets, of course, like everything, to drive automation and things like that. And so one of these companies was using them to automate after-hour check-ins. And so basically they'd be like, all right, if you're in the geofence and no one's there, we'll allow you to go through these steps, drop the trailer and leave without, an actual physical person being there. And so they're like, all right, we're going to make these circular geofences as small as we can and go from there. There was at this one DC and the circular geofence just barely caught this cul-de-sac that was outside of the locked gate. And so the driver had parked right there and was allowed to go through all their checkout things and leave. And there was a truck full of dog food and $250,000 worth of dog food ended up getting stolen. And so it was like, man, I was hoping it was going to be like, $1 million worth of TVs. That's a much more better story, but there was a lot of dog food, and it at least highlights what, like, oh wow, that was very like, for us, a very big light bulb moment of, okay, it happened to be dog food, which isn't the end of the world, but let's say it was TVs or whatever. Like, this is an interesting story. So yeah, we've seen kind of wild stuff like that. But
so that brings it to a point, where you're really zeroing in and getting rid of some of those big circles. You're putting in the polygons and you're doing it, making it even smaller and more accurate.
Yeah, and that's actually a great question. Kind of building on your comment of like, okay, what is the geofence from the start? Basically, on any of these platforms, you have 2 options. Put in a bunch of addresses and you can get these circular geofences and you basically just pick the radius, or you can hand draw these polygons. So for us, we've got millions and millions of geofences and everything's polygon based. So very, very tight, accurate shapes for wherever you want to go. And so our whole perspective is, this is such a, like, again, it's just a shape on a map. So why are people spending hours and hours drawing these things or relying on these really inaccurate circles? So basically people can pull in these data sets to use in their existing tools. And so, yeah, I would have cut out that cul-de-sac, cut out the highway so you're not getting false flags driving by. And again, just trying to like eliminate that noise so you know what really happened. So you can, again, domino 2 that falls is the right domino and not taking you in the wrong direction.
So tell us a little bit about the advantages of geofencing. And we talked a little bit about cargo theft. We talked a little bit about some of the issues that I ran into. What are some of the big advantages? Why should a fleet do this?
Whether it's geofences or really just any data set, I think, because we see it in all kinds of different areas, not even just geofences, where I think number 1 is getting like your immediate needs covered. So whether it's your own pickup and drop off locations or whatever it is, like that's step number 1. But then step number 2 is really unleashing the technology, because I do this in everyday life all the time. Like, I've got a piece of technology, whether it's a hardware, a software, whatever it is, I probably use 10% of its full capabilities. And so pushing that 10% to 15, 20, 30, and starting to use these tools to their full capacity. You're paying for it as a fleet. Like, how much you use it doesn't change your price necessarily. So it's like, let's use every tool we can in this thing. And so whether it's geofencing or any data set, we really see if you've got that robust coverage and you've got a full, complete data set for whatever you're trying to accomplish that you can plug and play with, it unlocks so many tools. And so that's really where we feel like we fit really well, is like, hey, geofences touch everything in like the tracking world. So when you come to telematics, that's so much of a platform. And so having just unlimited coverage and everything you need just unlocks so many different tools. And so that's what we really see as like one of the huge benefits here is taking full advantage and pushing that ROI from your telematics just as far as you can.
You mentioned ROI. If for those that listen or maybe listening to this, where would they get the best bang for their buck on using geofencing and telematics? Where do you see that ROI coming from?
I think it comes back to efficiency in decision making, and then efficiency of like running a problem or an opportunity to its endpoint as quickly as you can. So like, for example, if you've got a problem, the problem just, it exists. Okay, so now what? Like, I can either spend days and days and days screwing around and trying all these different things, or if I know exactly what the problem is, I can run it out to completion as quickly as possible. And so, or on the other side of like, hey, this is a good thing. This is an opportunity to take advantage of. Let's jump on it immediately and take advantage of it as quickly as we can. So we really see it as having the right data to make the right decisions as quickly as you can, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It saves time kind of screwing around, chasing down the answers you're looking for. And I mean, I bet you all of us have seen this incredible change in like just the last year in terms of with AI. Like, getting to answers is so fast and you're able to just do things so much quicker. Like, we were, my team and I were chasing down, this prospect was asking for, what were they asking? Oh, they were asking if we could do with like these different API endpoints on one of our telematics partners, if we could accomplish like this certain report. And we were like, yeah, let us take a look. And before that could have been, going to write a Python script to hit all these API endpoints, put it into Excel. I'm an idiot in Excel, so trying to figure out formulas to like look at and do all these things, where I can dump these API endpoints into an AI model, ask these exact questions, and I know within minutes, oh, I can't do that. So now I'm like, okay, I know now to respond to you in 5-10 minutes that I can't do that versus me spending a whole day trying to chase down this potential opportunity. So we really see it as that of just like efficiency in decision making, and just because you have the right data. So that's what we see as probably the biggest ROI, is just operating more efficiently.
If someone's listening today and wants to take advantage of this, what would you advise them to do at this point?
What we do see a lot of too, and this is in like, these software tools are so powerful and so vast in terms of what they can, the different use cases they can do and the different things they can accomplish in terms of like telematics, things from billing and tracking to, routing and fuel usage, just all kinds of different things. And so I think what's always very interesting is we'll talk to people who have like a whole breadth of understanding and experience of these different parts of these tools. And so number one, connect with the people on your team who are impacted by this. Like let's say it's a geofence. Okay, arrival, departure, and dwell. Who feels the pain of when those are wrong, or what happens when those are wrong? Because like you in your role might not know, and someone in some corner of the office might be like, oh dude, I touch that every day, or that hurts when it's wrong, or like, yes, I know exactly that. So number one, connect with and just chat with those with experience on your team in this area, whether it's geofencing or any other SaaS tool. Like who touches this every day and what's going on and what happens. And then from there, sitting down with just people who provide solutions in that space, like whether it's ourselves in geofencing or someone else on a fuel card or anything like that. Like I think in today's world, and I think people are a lot better about this, like buy versus build. I feel like the buy and the partnership world has just exploded because there's just so many things out there that you just can't be experts at everything. And so leveraging partnerships and people who are experts in these spaces, I think is huge. Even just like pick their brain to understand what's going on. We see this in our space all the time where someone will just reach out and be like, okay, Lucas, what's going on here? I don't understand how you're building a business around this. So what am I missing? And we'll just highlight like, hey, this is where this world's going. And they're like, okay, I didn't even think about that. And so many of our customers we talk to, and then they come back 3 months later and they're like, okay, I see where this fits now. I understand now what's going on. I'm ready to chat. So I think just leaning on people in the space, pick their brain, understand what's going on. So that's where I'd start.
So just sitting here listening to you and thinking of myself as a fleet operator, fleet manager years ago, people inevitably, I mean, there's things like cargo theft. We talked about that, but there's also things like fuel theft. We've got people that might be running around on the weekends in a company vehicle, and you catch them at a fuel station, things like that too, as well. So, I mean, there's so many uses where you can really, keep people honest, I guess would be the best way to say that, their job. And then obviously as they're using this, perhaps logistics, routing, things like that can be more dialed in. I'd mentioned earlier, about productivity. Just implementing telematics in my life, I've seen anywhere from 2 to 5% productivity lifts, just by tracking where people are going. So lots of other advantages. Anything we hadn't talked about yet on this that you want to leave with the viewers, the listeners?
I think one of the most interesting things we're seeing everyone is probably experiencing this from all technology, from just the way AI is taking over all kinds of crazy spaces. And I mentioned it earlier, but I just think people come to us and be like, hey, yeah, here's 100 addresses. I just want to transition these into 100 geofences. That's like, okay, yeah, we can definitely easily do that for you. But that's not like the partnerships we're looking for. And it's not beneficial for anyone, because they look at it as like really just a one-time thing of like, hey, I want to drop this list and get this back. And I really encourage people to start to think about strategies around data sets that are critical to your business. And by strategy, I really look at it as like a long-term integrated like mindset switch that happens around the way you look at these data sets and think about them. Because the person who comes to us is like, yeah, I just need 100 geofences and I'm gone. It's like, okay, there's a huge gap there in terms of that person's understanding of geofences and how they should be impacting their fleet. Because yes, that 100 might just be your customers today, but what about customers tomorrow? What about what's happening in between point A and point B? And so for these different data sets, I just encourage people to think about it from a strategy perspective, not just like a set it and forget it. Because we've had this with customers where they're like, I just want 100 geofences, Lucas, and I don't want anything else. It's like, all right, here you go. We'll do it. You get nothing else with this. So here's your 100. And then they're coming back weeks later, months later, like, hey, my trucks are parking over here and I want to expand, or I want to change these, or I want to tweak things, or hey, we got new customers. I'm like, see, this is what I was talking about. Like, integrate the whole layer. Like, start thinking about this as a strategy that's not going away. Because I've never come across any customer of ours who has like a title for a person that's like geofence QA/QC manager or something like that. And so it gets kicked around. Someone has to handle it one week, someone handles it the other, and then it gets forgotten about. And now things are out of date and out of order, and all these things come back. And so, because people come to us all the time, they're like, well, Lucas, my Walmart down the street isn't changing. Like, I just need it once and I'm done. And it's like, sure, that Walmart's not changing, but fleet and transportation is the most, I don't know if it's cyclical is the right word, but just like nothing is static. Like nothing is static, whether it's the vehicle breaking down, the route that day. You might drive the same road every single day. That road is different every day, whether it's weather, construction, like everything is constantly changing. And so to think that geofences are static and not changing, I think that's the wrong way to think about it. And I think to bring strategy is really important.
I think you really hit on something that we can kind of conclude with, and that is strategy. I recall years ago, when I implemented telematics in a couple of places, I could get a myriad of data points. I mean, hundreds, literally hundreds. And I sat down and said, what are the critical few I really need? Maybe 5 to 10, and do that. But I think there needs to be a lot of thought process going in up front, so you can dial in that strategy to really get something that works for you.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, if you've got 20 priorities, you have no priorities. Like, I think you're right.
Yep,
like
exactly.
Picking those few that are really important and driving with those. And so, yeah, I think you're spot on. So yeah, it's an interesting space. It's fun to be in.
It's been great talking to you today. That's kind of a wrap for this episode, Lucas. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you've with us again very soon. If you have any questions or ideas for future podcast episodes, feel free to email us at podcast@rta.com. See you next time on the Fleet Success Show.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
We hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on LinkedIn or leave a review. Want to learn more about our fleet management software, Fleet 360? Check us out at rtafleet.com. If you want to learn more about having your fleet evaluated by our consulting team, go to fleetconsulting.com.